Hey family, welcome to episode 3. I hope all is well. I hope everybody's week went well. I hope you are all in good health and in good spirits. I am happy to be doing episode 3. This has become very, very much therapeutic for myself. So far so good. I am loving doing this. It's making me feel booted and energized for each week to come. So before we get started into the heart of episode 3, it's only right I have to share a fun fact about myself. So fun fact for today is that I'm obsessed with watching videos of people getting their blackheads popped or cysts popped or weird stuff like that. I've kind of always been super into skin and like skincare. Like quietly, I probably couldn't do it. But if you got a blackhead or a pimple or something, or a cyst or something, I'm your girl. I be into all of that stuff. So call me. Schedule an appointment. I'm not scheduling an appointment, but yeah, I love watching those videos. So that's a weird, quirky, fun fact about me this week. The heart of today's episode will be the health effects that grief cause. So, the number one health-stricken cause by grief is grief weakens your immune system. And that is so important because your immune system, as you know, fights off any illnesses, any infections, anything. So when your immune system is weak, you are weak. You are more vulnerable and susceptible to infections, to illnesses of any kind. So while grief is a thick emotion we feel, it is also a very big health risk. Second health risk, a study shows that grief causes heart attacks. A person is 21 times more likely to have a heart attack after losing a spouse or a child due to being grief-stricken. Heartbreak syndrome is a very real thing. It is a medical thing. People die of heartbreak, which is crazy. Because it's a phrase you hear, but like, you really don't think deep into it. Like, oh damn, like I'm really conked out. I'm out of here. And a lot of people feel that way, which is so unfortunate and so sad because there's so much to live for. But some people just feel like, look, once I've had this and this is what I've experienced, I've spent 98% of my life living like this, and now my spouse or my loved one or my child or like certain stuff you just can't get over, which is how you get grief-stricken and you get the heartbreak syndrome. Also, third health risk, grief oftentimes, more often than anything else, causes alcohol and substance abuse. That's a part of trying to suppress what you feel. It's a part of trying to escape what your emotion is. I know for me personally, I'm already a social drinker, but going through what I went through, it skyrocketed. And not because it's like I have to do it in order to function, because that's not the case. But like it says, it just makes it a little easier. It's a little easier when you can forget about what's happening in the moment. Like you can forget about this emotion, or you can forget about feeling this particular way because of what your reality is. My reality is I'm going to go home to an empty house. This person that I lost will no longer be in arm's reach of me, will no longer be in contact with me. Like, I will never see this person again. So the reality of it is I'm getting used to an everyday normal of not having my loved one. And that can become very overwhelming when you're constantly trying to soberly get through it. That's the healthy way. And it is a way that is recommended. But as humans and as just individuals, period, we fall victim to substance abuse, either alcohol, weed, whatever your killer of choice is, it's easier to fall victim to those things when your reality isn't what you want it to be. Very easy. Let's see. The most obvious of them all, grief causes depression. Depression is a domino effect for all type of other triggers and issues. I know that being a person who mildly suffers from depression and anxiety, depression comes in waves and you really can't shake it. Like when it come and it hit. And even though you have support systems or your friends or your family who give you all the encouraging words, give you all the feels, they come, they sit with you, they spend time with you, they talk to you, all of those things, nothing can debate what you feel on the inside. So when you're depressed, you're depressed. I can't tell you, or better yet, nobody can tell me how to move past my depression. Nobody can tell me, oh, well, do this and this and you'll feel better, or do this and this and it'll go away. It literally is an internal thing. It's something that I have to deal with. It's something that I have to get over. And that's just the reality, unfortunately. But while being depressed, you don't eat. You don't sleep. You don't take care of yourself properly because you barely want to move from the spot that you're in. You're deprived. You are not well rested. Your mind isn't where it needs to be. And it's just overall a very unhealthy thing. And the last one that the study listed was that it causes poor sleep. Grief causes poor sleep, obviously. But that falls into depression as far as I'm concerned, because obviously you're not going to sleep. You're not thinking about sleeping. How can you sleep? Realistically, when you close your eyes, the only visual you see is your loved one. You only feel and think deep into all of the things and memories and things that y'all had. That is hard, nevertheless. But I will say that I think grief causing health issues is not thought upon. You have people who lose children, for example. Although they look good on the outside, they will never be the same ever again. Ever. And because they have lost a child, that might be traumatic for them to think about having another child, or to think of being a parent or in a position where you lack giving things to your other children. Because if you have other children and you lose a child, it's nothing that can compare to losing a child. Not even losing a spouse can compare to losing a child. You see what I'm saying? Even losing a spouse. If you've been married for umpteenth years, even if you haven't been married for umpteenth years, if you're used to an everyday normal with a person and then you go from having it to suddenly not having it, you're miscombobulated. Just realistically, everything is up in the air, which sucks. But it's the reality, and some people really become ill from the lack of routine, the lack of having what they once had. It's more common to see amongst older people, because when you're older, you're less active, you're very routine stricken, so you're used to your everyday boom, 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 So it's found more in older people to, become ill or get struck with the heartbreak syndrome. That is a thing. In the youth, the youth department, it's more likely for us to be traumatized in a sense of, oh, that's a feeling I never want to feel again, so I'll never be attached to something in that manner again. And that is also not good, because who wants to spend a life lonely? Nobody. If you lost a child and you enjoyed being a parent and you know the joys that parenting brung for you, it's scary, but do you want to feel that feeling again? Of course you do. Do you want to be in love again with somebody? Of course you do. Nobody wants to go in spending their life alone, especially not if you don't have to. Speaking from experience, I personally had a bad habit of saying I'll never meet another person and be in love like I was ever again. And that is something I needed to stop speaking over my life, because it's not what I want. I know I didn't. I know I don't want to be alone. I know that I have so many dreams and things that I want to do. I want to be a wife. It's very possible I want to have more kids, but I can't speak those negative things over my life, because when you speak them, then they will be. Power is in the tongue. So when you speak it, that's what it'll be. So to gravitate and pull positivity towards you, you have to speak it. And even though in the midst of your storm, it may be very hard and it may be very, cliche to say, but you have to speak those things into existence. You have to speak those things upon your life. Like, okay, I know what it feels like. The standard has been set. I know how to distinguish what the real is and what it isn't. You take the good from any situation. And that's just what it has to be. And that's very hard to do. And it takes a different type of strong person to be able to do that. It does. It's a hard thing. And like I said, like I tell y'all every week, I'm still navigating. I'm still learning new things and figuring it out. This is a learning journey for me as well, just as much as for you. But it's hard as hell. I know for people in my life that have experienced loss, I'll use my mom. My mom losing my grandmother at such a young age. My mom was married and pregnant when she lost her mom. You never fully get over it. You don't get over that. You don't get to grieve through that. You don't really have time to grieve sometimes. In certain situations, you're not put in a position where you can just sit back and be like, okay, I'm gonna feel this through. I'm gonna feel it. I'm gonna go ahead and take my time to grieve and she's becoming a new mom. She's a new wife. So those are things you never fully grieve from, and they cause different traumas and different triggers along the line. Like you'll never be as close to a person as you are with your parent or your sibling, rather. You just never will be. So to be as close with your mom, like my mom was with her mom, and to lose her when the peak of your life is beginning, when you're becoming a wife and you're becoming a mom, that's hard. You don't get over that. And not only that, she leaves behind this legacy and your siblings and all of these things that you all have to fulfill. And sticking together is the key. Sticking together when each one of them are feeling it from a different angle, because each one of them had a different relationship. So that's another thing. That's just like grieving the loss of a loved one. I can't put myself in the shoes of a sister or a mother or a brother or even a friend, because those relationships and dynamics are totally different than my relationship. I don't discredit or try to, speak down upon the strength of a relationship that anyone has had with anyone else, because I don't know. There are conversations and things that were done and discussed with friends and cousins and siblings or moms or whoever that some of us may never know about your loved one. You may never know some of these conversations or, things that were done with these people that love them just as much as you love them. They will never know what they experienced or talked about or discussed with you. So I've never been a person that says, he didn't feel this way. I can't tell you how he felt or what he felt or what he didn't feel or none of that. I can only speak for my relationship, and based off my relationship is why I have to move how I move. And that's just what I've taken from it so far. What I've also taken from it so far is that everyone is going to deal with grief in their own way. We can all be grieving over the same person, but we're all going to handle it differently. We're going to look at it from a different angle. We're going to feel it. We're going to project it different. And that's nothing that is a personal target at anybody, or that's not throwing shade or trying to be like whatever, push offish to anybody or anything like that. But everybody's just different. Everybody handles it different. I know for me, I want to project love. I want to give that energy off that no matter what, my arms and doors are open. I'm all ears. And I'm just a loving person like that anyway. But, you know, sometimes it's easier said than done to be so receptive and so available to people when you're still trying to navigate and figure it out. I'm trying to still figure out ways to not overcompensate for things I have no control over. Because that's also a thing. I try to stay in my lane. I try to respectively, you know, inform that I am here, yet keeping those boundaries set. You know, and in grief, a lot of times people think that it's, especially in our culture, that it's easier to come together and we all kind of got to mesh together. When in all reality, that's not the case. We don't have to. It's easier to. It's better to. I'm sure for the sake of the loved one that is no longer present, they would want that. But it's not always that easy. It's really not always that easy. And while the question will always stand, you know, am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? You know, or whatever the case may be, you really just have to pretty much find your lane and stay in it. That's the best advice I have to give. As far as the topic at hand, grief and its health effects, again, speaking from experience, if you let it, it will take you out, literally. That's also easier said than done, because depending on a person, some people just feel like that's all they have and that's all they will ever have and that's it. So they really could care less. But for me, I have so much to live for. I have so much things to do. I have a bucket list to accomplish. There are so many things for me to do and so much for me to live for. So many things I have to see through to the end that I can't allow it. I can't allow it. I can't be consumed or swallowed or sucked into what is happening around me. Like, I have to hold my head up and fight through to the end. And that's a daily fight. Me fighting with my emotions is a daily fight. A daily fight. I might hear a song. I might see a person. I might smell a food. And it literally just instantly takes me back to a time where I'm suddenly looking up and I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm going to have a mental breakdown. And that is a daily struggle. I could be talking to my friends. I could be talking to my family. Totally okay on the surface. Totally cool and just whatever. But on the inside, I am crumbling. Daily. That is a daily battle. I just told a friend of mine, the hardest battle in life is battling with what you know and what you feel. I know the obvious. I know he's in a better place. He is no longer suffering. He is with our Father in the most peaceful, most beautiful, most perfect place. But what I feel totally contradicts what I know. And that's just the honest to God truth. So I try to be up. I try to be active. I try to be strong. I try to be happy. You know, I try to be all of these things that I want for myself later down the line. I try to be everything that I would want, that he would want for me. Trying to be those things helps me move forward with going on and holding on. So my advice in this episode would just be matter of fact, my advice would be a quote that I saw. It said, be all of the things that you loved about your lost loved ones. So be all of the things that you love so much about the person that you lost. So that is resilient, that is kind, that is loving, that is smart, that is ambitious, that is motivational, that is empathetic, that is charming, that is funny, that is so many different things, so many positive things to choose from. Like, think of all of the good things in the person that you lost, and you be those things. You be those things, you live those things, you walk in those things, and you pray for healing. You pray for healing. You pray for understanding. You pray for patience. Because it's so much more to life than loss. It's so much after life than loss. Loss is not the end all be all. So that is my recommendation for episode 3. I love y'all. I pray nothing but good happiness, health upon you all. And I will see y'all next week.